Chapter 381, Ultron is gone? Did I just give you the information? Maria Hill asked suddenly. Yeah, what's the problem? Captain America responded, puzzled. Maria Hill frowned. You've changed, Captain. I seem to have given you something subconsciously. It was originally intended for Miss Carter. Is there an issue with me? Captain America was curious, not understanding why Hill said that. Didn't you do this before? Tony Stark chimed in, equally curious. Maria Hill thought for a moment and then nodded. I understand now. It's a leadership quality. The former captain was just a captain, just Captain America. But now, you're a real leader, the captain of the Avengers. So when you asked for information, I gave it to you subconsciously, without thinking. This is a natural leadership quality. Everyone was taken aback for a moment, realizing that this was indeed the case. In the past, even though they were on the same team and called Steve the captain, they mostly operated in pairs or small groups. After all, everyone was a genius and a superhero. They didn't need to follow someone blindly. But now, as soon as Steve returned, they gathered around him, not just for a long-lost reunion, but because they saw him as the true captain. This change was due to Steve's new demeanor. The first person I saw with this leader quality was Nick Fury, but he was a bit lacking compared to the captain, Maria Hill said. No way, that one-eyed man? Tony was dumbfounded. He had never thought of it that way. Black Widow rolled her eyes. Working under Nick Fury, she could truly feel his charismatic leadership. It was the feeling of being able to get things done, making every day fulfilling, and not resisting the tasks assigned. This was leadership quality. However, it felt more natural and relaxed to be by Steve's side at the moment. The leadership qualities of the two were different. Steve smiled. Maybe it's the change brought about by the Paladin? In reality, it was due to leading a team of 500 people over the past half-month. With the gradual enforcement of orders and discipline, a true leader had emerged. Hearing this, Black Widow looked forward to her inheritance even more. Of course, she was also aware that the professional inheritance of the Stalker was unlikely to bring about such a change. Stalkers deliberately downplay their existence, making others not notice them, even in daily life. Over time, some high-level stalkers would be ignored by the surrounding crowd, even if they stood in a banquet hall. Stalkers were destined to walk a lonely road. Although she had only seen the skills, she could already glimpse the potential. Black Widow didn't mind being ignored. She was a good match for the role. Well, anyway, the Loki scepter has been brought back. What do you think about these two power enhancers? Steve asked. You are the captain. You decide. Tony shrugged. Then let's not worry about them. As long as they don't harm the world, we don't need to intervene. Steve smiled. Okay. Tony, they might come to trouble you, Steve added with a knowing smile. What? Why? Tony frowned. Because of this? Steve handed over the tablet. Tony hadn't been there when the information was read earlier. After a glance, Tony was puzzled. Their hometown was destroyed by bombs. What does that have to do with me? Maria Hill shrugged and smiled. Actually, it does have something to do with you. I just checked. Their hometown was destroyed by Stark Enterprises. Missile. Tony stood there for a long time before cursing. Damn it. It happened 10 years ago, back when he was still selling to the military. But now he had quit. Damn it, turning over old accounts. Although he was a traitor, it wasn't him who used it. But if you're unlucky, no one will recruit you. Forget it. Let them come if they want to, Tony said, slamming the table and walking away. Everyone exchanged glances. Falcon asked, Is he going to be okay? Bucky asked, Are we really not going to do anything about it? Steve replied, We still have to take care of it. Hill, keep an eye on their movements and let me know immediately if you notice any significant changes. Okay, Captain. Maria Hill nodded and left. Ignoring the situation was not an option. Besides, Tony was still Peggy Carter's big nephew. Wait, does that make him Uncle Tony? Steve hadn't thought about it that way before. Promoted a generation, huh? So the eldest nephew couldn't be ignored. If Tony knew, he would be devastated. He was considered the youngest in their complex web of relationships. Duke was his grandfather, Diana his grandmother, and Duke's 3 disciples were his uncles and aunts. Even Logan, who was close to Duke, was of his grandfather's generation. In short, there were few people in Karazhan with a lower seniority than him. Now that Aunt Peggy Carter was alive, and Steve and she had a substantial relationship even though they weren't married yet, Tony couldn't escape being a nephew-to-be. Bucky, who was in Steve's generation, became his uncle again. It was exhausting to think about. But soon, the carnival began, and they temporarily set aside their troubles. In Karazhan, Duke frowned and clicked his lips. Eh? Is Ultron gone? Who is Ultron? Diana asked, approaching with a glass of red wine in her hand. By the way, Tony is holding a carnival. Why don't you go? Why don't you go? Duke countered. I went, but he was uncomfortable, Diana smiled. As a grandmother-level figure, her presence made it hard for the eldest grandson to enjoy himself. Hey, same here. I don't like too much excitement, Duke shook his head. You haven't said who Ultron is? Another hero you foresaw? Diana inquired. No, a villain, Duke clarified. A rebel? Diana asked. Duke nodded. Actually, it's nothing. In a fuzzy future timeline, Tony creates a robot named Ultron because he's afraid of the future. His intentions are good, but unfortunately, Ultron goes out of control and becomes a threat. But now, it seems he hasn't created Ultron? He glanced at Dr. Banner, who was meditating in his room. Was it because Banner was missing? After all, Ultron was created by the two of them together. It should be said that they were counterattacked after failing to create it successfully. Now that Banner was missing, Tony might not be able to create Ultron on his own. With Ultron gone, Vision would also be gone, and the Sokovia incident would definitely disappear. What about Wanda and Pietro? It seemed he still had to intervene. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Isn't this impulsive? Sokovia's outskirts. Where are we? We were just eating a moment ago. A man and a woman, one with gray hair and the other with brown, stood bewildered. This was Pietro and Wanda. Pietro, the brother, and Wanda, the sister. Reflecting on his previous obsession with Wanda, the narrator now felt she had lost some of her allure. Her hands, in particular, seemed less appealing compared to those of Diana and Mera. The difference between a true goddess and an internet celebrity goddess was stark. Hi, everybody, Duke emerged slowly, a mischievous grin on his face as he looked at the siblings. Who are you? You. The siblings were immediately taken aback. Pietro assumed a running stance, ready to whisk his sister away at any moment, while Wanda raised her hands, red magic flickering like smoke in her palms. The sudden appearance of this man was terrifying because only half of him had materialized, the left half, to be precise. The right half was missing. As inexperienced as they were, the siblings were frightened by this bizarre sight. Hey, I won't tease you, Duke said, stepping out fully. Behind him was a blond man wearing a windshield. It was Quicksilver. Quicksilver, now approaching middle age, chewed gum nonchalantly as he looked at the two in front of him. Is this what you said, my son? He asked. What are you talking about? Pietro snapped, dashing towards Quicksilver. However, he was stunned when the man who claimed to be his father also disappeared. They collided halfway and then separated, eyeing each other warily and curiously. Pietro was vigilant, while Quicksilver was curious. Tsk, it's really my son, but in quotation marks, Quicksilver smiled. Pietro was on guard. The man in front of him was incredibly strong. What happened? Wanda asked, curious. The man had seemed to disappear just now. His ability is the same as mine, Pietro said cautiously. What? Wanda was slightly surprised. Tsk, the same? No. Quicksilver waved his index finger with a disdainful expression. You are much weaker. Don't you feel your hands? The grown-up Quicksilver was highly capable, an active member of the X-Men. With high-speed thinking and movement, he could easily reach speeds of 80 million kilometers per hour. His physical strength was far beyond that of ordinary people. His bones could withstand impacts that would crush ordinary people, and his Achilles tendons were harder than steel. Quicksilver could also fly short distances by shaking his arms or legs, shatter objects by vibrating parts of his body, and create artificial tornadoes and cyclones to avoid attacks from weapons like machine guns and lasers. Compared to him, Pietro, who had gained his powers through experimentation, was like a baboon. The weaker version of Quicksilver was only slightly stronger than 1/10 of his power. Pietro quickly hid his left hand behind his back, realizing he had lost feeling in it. The slight collision earlier had felt like hitting a mountain, and his left hand had gone numb instantly. Are you okay? Wanda asked, concerned. I'm fine, Pietro replied. Duke, this man is not my son. I definitely don't have an illegitimate child. Quicksilver turned to Duke. You're causing me trouble. If Crystal finds out, it will be another case of domestic violence. Quicksilver had gotten together with Princess Crystal of the Inhuman race on the moon a few years ago, and they had a daughter named Luna, meaning the moon goddess. Duke had come to the X-Men Academy claiming he had found Quicksilver's son, which must have spread throughout the Academy. Although Crystal was not here at the moment, having gone back to the moon, the news would surely reach her. In a few days, it will be clear if the moon is complete. I didn't chase after him. I already know that when he returns, I'll be waiting for him at the Academy. Ouch, my head hurts. My daughter is only a year old, and she can't be without her mother for now. If Crystal knew about this, it might lead to a big battle. Ha ha ha! Don't I see that your abilities are very similar? Duke smiled and patted Quyen on the shoulder, nearly knocking him over. Similar? He's much weaker than me. I could beat him with a quarter of my strength, and I'm a mutant. What about him? Quyen turned to look at Pietro. Hey, are you a mutant? Pietro frowned. Mutant? I don't know. My ability comes from experiments. He realized that the two people in front of him probably wouldn't kill him. Experiments, huh? Quyen scoffed. Abilities from experiments were even lower in his eyes. Of course, he conveniently forgot that his own abilities also came from experiments. But the experimenters were different. One was a cosmic Protoss, and the other, well, this guy looked like a human experiment. Hey, can you let me go? I need to go back and explain things. My wife is very fierce, Quyen said with a sad face. If she's so fierce, why did you marry her? Duke asked. Wasn't it impulsive? Quyen wanted to cry. It was all tears in previous years. At that time, he thought Crystal was super beautiful. Although he was a bit dissatisfied, she had a good figure. They were impulsive for a while, and in the end, the other party was also impulsive, so they ended up together in a muddled way. Afterwards, he wanted to deny it, but the X-Men and the Inhumans almost got into a fight, so Quyen had to admit it. He hadn't thought about getting married then. Are you sure you didn't act impulsively with other women before you met Crystal? Duke asked again. It should be. Nothing? Quyen immediately shrank his neck. After all, he didn't have a girlfriend, and it's normal to be impulsive when he went out to find someone. But he didn't remember ever being in Sokovia. You're scaring me again. The ability is from experiments. Did you just get it from the experiment, or did the experiment draw out his original ability? Duke asked with a smile. Quyen was dumbfounded again. This is what I said. But something seems off. Pietro and Wanda also looked at each other in confusion. Could it be that this person in front of them is their father? What about the parents who raised them for 10 years? Were they fake, adoptive parents? Everything was suddenly confusing. Quyen gritted his teeth. Okay, I'll take them back for an appraisal, and if they're mine, I'll admit it. At worst, let Crystal beat me up. Duke laughed loudly. I'm kidding you, they are not your children. Huh. Quyen breathed a sigh of relief and patted his chest. You're trying to scare me to death. Pietro and Wanda were also speechless for a moment, but felt relieved. If they weren't their biological parents, would they still seek revenge on Tony? The conditions for revenge were no longer established. After all, in their memory, their parents were not very kind to them. End of this chapter. Chapter 383. Have you ever copied homework? Hey, this isn't real. Why did you drag me here, just to mess with me? Quicksilver was quite angry. This is going to spread throughout the X-Men Academy. No, you have to explain this to me later. Isn't this a joke? Pietro and Wanda also recognized the person in front of them. Although he didn't often appear in newspapers, he was still very famous. You are Dharma God Duke. Yes, it's me. You know it's me, and you still want to take revenge. Duke smiled slightly. Revenge? What kind of revenge? Quicksilver's various regrets. Of course, the hatred of killing one's father and mother cannot be shared. Pietro clenched his fists tightly. He also knew. You're a guy. Okay, I can give you a chance. As long as you can beat him, I won't interfere. Duke raised his finger, while Quicksilver was still confused. Ah, what do I care about? Duke glared, and Quicksilver immediately faltered. Okay, can I do it? Pietro clenched his fists tightly. You are bullying. Young man, this world is based on strength. It's not wrong to be weak, but it's unwise to disobey the orders of the strong when you are weak. If your fists are not good enough, don't hold them so tightly. Duke shook his index finger with a look of contempt. Okay, I promise you. How do we compete? Pietro finally chose to compromise because he had no chance of winning and could only accept his fate. Don't worry, I won't come up with too difficult a proposition. It will be slightly more fair. Duke smiled and squeezed his thumb and index finger together, indicating a very small margin. Pietro immediately turned pale. It's not an advantage in the first place. No one is strong, and it's not fair. This is complete. If there was no Duke and only the man with glasses, he and his sister might have won. But now, hey! Duke slowly raised his hand, and with a series of clicks, countless pillars sprang out of the ground, surrounding the four of them. The pillars were all 30 meters high and varied in diameter, so densely packed that you couldn't see the edge at a glance. The distance between the pillars varied from 10 meters to 20 meters, and they were constantly moving. The most terrible thing was that the pillars were not stone pillars, but fire pillars, thunder pillars, icicles, quicksand pillars, wind pillars, and so on. On each pillar, there was a small ball the size of a fist. Whoever gets the ball wins. As he said that, Duke waved his hand casually, and Quicksilver and Pietro stood on two fixed stone pillars in the north and south respectively. These two were the starting pillars. They wouldn't change. Brother, Wanda became nervous. I'm fine. Don't be afraid. I will definitely get the ball, Pietro shouted. Forget it, brother. We won't take revenge, Wanda shouted. She only had this one family member, and she didn't want to experience the feeling of losing a loved one again. No, don't worry. I will definitely win. Duke smiled and said, the pillars are constantly moving and changing, and the distance is also changing. The next second you choose a distance of 20 meters, it may become 30 meters. In addition, these pillars are safe for half a second after you fall. They will attack you in half a second, so be careful. Prepare. Pietro and Quicksilver immediately got ready to run. The latter was well aware of Duke's miraculous power and had seen it several times, but the former was completely in a state of disbelief. There were still so many freehand creations, it was unbelievable. Oh right, I forgot to say. The two staggered and almost fell down. The position of the ball is also random and constantly changing. Pay attention. Hey, come on, get ready, run! The two of them were one again, and the others were Aikishin, so it was better to run away directly. However, both of them were ability enhancers, and they instantly turned into invisible shadows and rushed towards the ball. Koyin had to win. He couldn't afford to be ashamed, especially ally with Duke watching. Although he didn't fully understand the situation, he knew one thing for sure. Duke was not someone who liked to lose. The two of them turned into blurs of speed, their movements so swift that only the sound of the wind could be heard, not their footsteps. Ah! A scream pierced the air. Brother! Wanda's heart trembled. She wanted to rush over to check on him, but was blocked. Even if you are a god of magic, I won't be afraid of you, she declared, immediately adopting a fighting stance. I'm fine, sister. Don't worry, Pietro called out, his voice strained. He had just been struck by a bolt of lightning from one of the thunder pillars, and the pain was excruciating, but he wasn't going to let it stop him. This level of pain, he could endure it. You'd better catch the ball first, he gritted his teeth, eyes locked on Duke's back as he moved again to grab it. Koyin was already close to the small ball, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't catch it. He was shocked. This was a test, not just for Pietro, but for him as well. Each pillar was a trial, a body-quenching experience that was beyond incredible. Duke seemed to have high hopes for Pietro, or perhaps for Wanda? She did seem quite impressive. Miss Wanda, do you want to stay in that posture forever? Duke chuckled, waving his hand. Instantly, Wanda's chaos magic vanished without a trace. How did you? Wanda stammered. You already said I'm a god of magic. Any magic is just a display in front of me, Duke laughed. Wanda was speechless. By the way, let me ask you a question, Duke continued. I want revenge. Stark destroyed my home, Wanda said directly. Duke shook his index finger. No. According to my investigation, it was only his weapon that destroyed your hometown. He himself was not the direct murderer. And Tony, He stopped selling weapons years ago. If it wasn't for him selling weapons, how could my hometown be destroyed? Wanda sneered. Your logic is flawed, Duke replied calmly. Why not? Wanda demanded, her eyes blazing. Let me ask you this. Why don't you seek revenge on the armed forces that destroyed your hometown, instead of Stark? Duke asked. They're long gone, Wanda snorted. Do you think I don't want to? See? It's the thugs who ruined your home, not Stark. Even without Stark selling weapons, those thugs would have found other suppliers. There's never a shortage of thugs in this world. Since Stark washed his hands of the business, those who bought his weapons have switched to other dealers, Duke explained. Wanda was stunned for a moment. No, they went to other military dealers, so even without Stark, those thugs would have found another way to get weapons, Duke concluded. Wanda was silent, processing his words. Have you done your homework? Duke asked, breaking the silence. What? Wanda replied, confused. End of this chapter. Chapter 384. Copying homework? Wanda was a little confused. What was this all about? Was the mind of the Fa Shen really jumping around like this? He was just making excuses for Stark, and now he was asking about copying homework. It was bewildering. Speak. Are you stupid? Duke tilted his head and looked at her. You are stupid, Wanda retorted. I copied my homework. What's wrong? She snorted, her eyes dodging a little, clearly embarrassed. Her hometown was destroyed when she was 10 years old. She went to school before that, but because her grades were not very good, she did copy her homework. Then let me tell you a story, Duke began. There was once a person who came early in the morning to copy the homework of the person sitting next to them, but was discovered by the class monitor. So, both of them were punished to stand at the same door. Female, copying homework is also against the rules. Who doesn't copy homework and copy masters? Male, using waste oil is also against the law, and you've eaten it for many years. Oh, you don't know about waste oil, right? It's the garbage flowing in the sewers, reprocessed. Eating it can cause cancer. Wanda's mouth twitched. Hey, disgusting. How could there be such a person? Of course, it's for profit. Businessmen. Forget it. Don't worry about it. Let's continue with the story. Female, but I didn't copy it. I just lent it to you. Male, his status is equivalent to that of an oil seller. Female, according to this logic. Yes, I'm just buying oil. I can go back and sit. Female, then you go in. I really like this place. Let's stay together. The girl smiled. Wanda was stunned, little question marks forming on her forehead. So the one who is guilty is the oil seller. That means the one who is guilty is the missile seller? Isn't Stark still guilty? What on earth are you trying to say, confusing your grandson so much? Yeah, what am I talking about? Duke scratched his head, feeling as if he had confused himself. It doesn't matter. What I want to tell you is that there are two sides to the story. It is also wrong for the girl to lend her homework to the boy. This encourages the boy's laziness. But the responsibility lies with the boy. If he didn't want to borrow homework, how could the girl lend it to him? Wanda was silent. Is that right? You have to be punished together in the end. If there is no homework borrowed, there will be no homework copied. In other words, if there is no buyer, there will be no seller. Therefore, Stark is not guilty to death. Wanda looked at Duke speechlessly. You are really a god of law. This ability to twist logic is really strong. How can this be considered twisting logic? Duke laughed. Forget it. We're not going to take revenge. Can you let my brother down? Wanda shook her head. While they were talking, Pietro had wailed no less than 10 times. He was already covered in bruises. That can't be done. I'm giving him a good fortune. What? Wanda frowned, unable to understand. Oh, you may not understand good fortune. It's just giving him a gift. This is not just about taking treasures, but also strengthening his abilities. He will become stronger after several rounds of this. You can't stop him. Duke explained. Really? Are you lying to me? Wanda looked suspiciously. How is this a lie? You'll know when it's over. Pietro's ability is indeed weak, a weaker version of Quicksilver. After a quick run, he has to catch his breath, which is too low. Have you ever seen Quicksilver do this? Moreover, Quicksilver can block bullets. Look at Pietro. He would be pierced in one round of shooting. Too weak, too weak. Pietro jumped between the stone pillars while running, feeling that the stone pillars' attack was not as strong as before. Take the thunderbolt pillar as an example. It almost knocked him out just now, but now it's just numbing, although it's still terrible. The electric shock is so severe that his legs go numb. But Quicksilver is going to be much stronger. He didn't care about getting the treasure. The small ball was useless to him anyway. Since Duke wanted to train Pietro, he decided to help by challenging him in various ways. Bang! Pietro was knocked out by his opponent. Ah! He missed the opportunity, and the pillars shifted instantly. Pietro flew into the air and landed on the ground with a thud, kicking up a cloud of dust. Ahem, you are so mean to me, Pietro groaned. Brother! Wanda wanted to rush forward, but Duke raised his hand to stop her. He's fine. You can't go forward. But he is too weak. If he wants to take on the responsibility of being a brother, he has to go through this trial, Duke continued. Otherwise, he will die on the road. Wanda hesitated for a moment, but then relented. Okay, I won't go. Pietro didn't have time to talk to his sister. He was too focused on figuring out how to climb the 30-meter-high pillars. After taking a few steps back, he ran forward, stepped on a stone pillar, jumped to the left, then to the right, using the pillars to zigzag his way up. However, the pillars kept moving, their positions shifting unpredictably. The distance between them would suddenly widen or shrink. Not only did the top of the pillars attack, but the pillars themselves also launched assaults. Pietro, in pain, cried out in frustration. After 3 failed attempts, he finally made it to the top. Seeing this, Wanda was amazed. Did her brother become stronger? In the past, he would be out of breath just running on flat ground, let alone a vertical wall, and he could only sprint for a moment, not for long. She glanced at Duke. Had this man lied to her? But why would he help her? Did he want to offset their revenge on Stark? It must be that. Otherwise, it didn't make sense. Looks like it's over, Kuai-Yin chuckled. Seeing that the pillar had no effect on Pietro, he slammed into it, knocking Pietro into the air again. But this time, Pietro didn't hit the post. He ran to the other side but lost the chance to get the ball. Kuai-Yin turned into an afterimage and rushed over, successfully catching it. It's over. Duke waved his hand, and the pillars instantly sank back into the ground and disappeared. I lost, Pietro said dejectedly as he walked over. I mean what I say. Since I lost, I promise you, I won't seek revenge on Stark. Gee, it's bad luck for you to go. The current Avengers are not the same as before. Paladin Steve specializes in dealing with people. Although Paladins do not have the ability to resist mind control magic, the powerful will of the Holy Light can disperse all negative influences. Pietro wants to run? The road sign is locked, and the hammer of sanctions will directly hit you on the head and knock you out. Revenge is still possible. I can send you to New York, and you can fight openly. No need, Wanda quickly waved her hands. I said I will fight, Pietro insisted. Wanda. Okay, I bought the tickets for you. Check them yourself. Also, what are you going to do next? End of this chapter. Chapter 385. Is this leader a fool? Quicksilver, run back to New York by yourself, Duke instructed, glancing at Quicksilver. Ah? Quicksilver responded, bewildered. What's going on? I've already explained it to you. Your wife told you to run back. If you dare to take a plane or any other means, you will never see her or your daughter again, Duke said, looking somber as he patted Quicksilver on the shoulder. What? No way. They're not my children. Quicksilver protested angrily. When did you explain this? Are you lying to me? Duke looked at Quicksilver as if he were a fool and said earnestly, Son, you are too naive. Inhumans have spies everywhere, and it's too easy for them to find out about your romantic escapades. Just accept your fate. Your princess wife, she is really ruthless. Fine, Quicksilver said, feeling depressed. If I have to run, I'll run. It's just a day's work, no big deal. With that, he dashed off towards the northwest and disappeared instantly. Hey, that's the west side, with the sea, Pietro said, stretching out his hand in confusion. That's the Atlantic Ocean. Running on the sea? Is he trying to walk on water like in those legendary Oriental novels? This is too powerful, right? No. Wanda patted her brother on the head. Are you stupid? No matter which way he runs, there's always the sea. If he goes west, it's closer. He just has to cross the Atlantic Ocean. If he goes east, he has to cross the Eurasian continent and then the Pacific Ocean. Are you stupid? However, she was also shocked. Could this guy called Quicksilver really run on the sea? Pietro scratched his head. I didn't think of that. When his sister explained, he suddenly realized it was true. Running west was closer, running east was much farther. He wants to go to the North Pole, Duke explained with a smile. The North Pole? Oh, he wants to step on the ice. Wanda instantly understood. He probably planned to enter the North Pole from northern Norway, then move to Greenland from the frozen North Pole, and finally head south through the scattered islands northeast of Canada, eventually returning to New York. The Atlantic Ocean isn't all water. There are some small islands, but you have to find them. I have to say, it's still very smart. Duke clicked his tongue twice. Without this trial, Quicksilver might not be able to complete it and would probably drown. When speed reaches a certain level, it's entirely possible to run on water, which isn't surprising. Okay, I'm leaving too. See you in New York, Duke said, opening a portal and heading home. Brother, what should we do? Wanda asked. Although I don't know what he means, it's not a troublesome thing to take a trip. Let's go. Pietro thought for a while, nodded, and said, Then let's go. A few days later, Pietro and Wanda arrived at the Stark Industrial Building in New York. After a friendly fight with Tony, they lost and joined the Avengers. Yes, they both joined. Wanda and Pietro became members of the Avengers. This was the price they paid for losing. Anyway, they had nowhere else to go, and the future seemed uncertain, so why not stay at the Avengers headquarters and see what happens? Half a year passed quickly. Wanda and Pietro underwent various rigorous training sessions and were ready to go on missions. Additionally, the relocation of the Avengers building was successful. With more and more people joining, it was no longer feasible to stay crowded at Stark's place. During an unexpected operation, they received news about Rumlow. Yes, Rumlow. He was still alive and well, much better off than in the original timeline, and not disfigured. After all, he didn't fight the Falcon. The Falcon didn't appear in Captain America the Winter Soldier, and Rumlow fought against Captain America, Steve Rogers. Immediately after the explosion began, the three aircraft carriers bombarded each other. Rumlow didn't die. He just jumped from the damaged bottom and fell into the sea in time, disappearing. As in the plot, Wanda and Pietro, Rumlow, controlled and self-destructing, rushed into the sky. Moments later, an explosion flattened the top 3 floors of the building. No. News reports flashed across the screen. Last month, in Lagos, Nigeria, 11 Wakandan citizens were tragically killed during a conflict between the Avengers and mercenaries. These normally isolated Wakandans were performing public service in Lagos at the time of the attack. King of Lagos, the blood of our people was spilled on foreign lands, not only because of crimes, but also due to the indifference of those who were supposed to prevent them. A victory won at the expense of the innocent is not a victory at all. Sue the Avengers, global anti-violence. They are not restricted by international law. If we do not respond to such behavior, it will become the norm. Wanda Maximoff, who possesses power enhancers, what right does she have to act in Nigeria? Captain America walked over and turned off the TV. Blame me, Wanda said, her voice filled with regret. No, Captain America shook his head. Then turn the TV back on. They're calling us out by name, Wanda insisted. The U.S. team sighed. I should have dismantled that bomb vest a long time ago, instead of making you have to do it. Someone died. It's my fault. I was too confident in myself. The enhancement of my abilities sometimes also brings about lapses in judgment. I always feel like I can take on the whole world. He smiled and shook his head, acknowledging his mistake. He had indeed become a little overconfident, not arrogant, but believing he could control Rumlow. He never thought that even a small person could have a moment of comeback. Blame both of us, Wanda said softly. In this job, we try to save as many people as possible. Sometimes we can't save everyone, but if we can't accept this, next time, maybe we can't save anyone. The U.S. team nodded. This is what I felt during the purification of Stratholme. Wanda nodded in agreement. Suddenly a figure flashed by. It wasn't a vision, it was Wanda's brother Pietro who appeared. He was very worried about the U.S. team. Seeing them, he realized they were fine. Peter, what's with that look? Wanda felt insulted. Pietro smiled. Stark is back. Oh, and he's not alone. Who? Wanda asked. The Secretary of State. It seems we are in trouble. Pietro shook his head. No one wants to hurt my sister. No one can hurt your sister. She is also our family, and so are you, Captain America said, stepping forward and patting Pietro on the shoulder. Let's go see what this leader has to say. 5 years ago, I had a heart attack, Banner's former father-in-law said while practicing his golf swing. During the golf swing, I passed out. As a result, that became the greatest blessing in my life. Nearly dying or luck? Is this new leader an idiot? Everyone wondered silently. P.S. Everyone knows what's going on recently. I lost motivation in an instant, and I'm ready for over. Announce the author group, 5-4 silently. If you want to join, you can. End of this chapter. Chapter 386. Is this leader a fool? After 13 hours of surgery and a triple bypass, I discovered something that 40 years in the military hadn't taught me, General Ross began. Vision. The whole world owes the Avengers an unrepayable debt, and you fought for us. Bucky curled his lips. Just one? General Ross's face darkened immediately, deciding to ignore the bastard guy. Bucky, Steve interjected, looking away. Okay. Bucky shrugged and said nothing more. Damn it, the simmering emotions were about to continue again. Ross organized his words. You protected us and risked your life. Bucky couldn't help but smile again. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it anymore. We are not protecting you. If I remember correctly, you also arrested your son-in-law. Oh, sorry, it was the ex-son-in-law. This man is not cute. Bucky. Captain America frowned. Okay, I'll shut up. Bucky shrugged and made a zipper motion on his mouth. Ross was about to be furious. Anyway, although many people regard you as heroes, there are also some who prefer to use the word vigilante. This new leader is really stupid. Is he stupid? Yes. Which word would you use, Mr. Secretary of State? Natasha asked with a half-smile. How about dangerous? Ross glanced at her and continued. How would you describe a group of enhanced individuals stationed in the United States, habitually ignoring sovereign borders? Where to go, what to do, it's all up to you. And to be honest, you seem indifferent to the consequences. Natasha smiled. Then you should ask Duke first. He'd probably love to hear your high opinion. Duke often crosses national borders. For him, he can go wherever he wants. Does he need to ask for permission? Absolutely not. To apply Duke's words, get lost as far as you can. Anyway, Natasha had already decided to hold on to Duke's support. When the time comes to inherit the ability of Stalker, she will travel incognito, crossing borders and playing all over the world. Let's see who can catch her. In her opinion, this Secretary of State Ross is here to pick the fruits of the Avengers' labor and wants to put a minion hat on their heads. The devil is willing to spoil him. You, Ross frowned. Mr. Secretary of State, am I wrong? You bully the weak. If you have the ability, go and tell Duke these words and see if he doesn't kick you to the North Pole. Natasha sneered, looking at Ross as if he were stupid. Any kind of dog jumped up to be the leader. Do you know the Avengers? Nonsense. With your tightening curse posture, aren't you forcing the Avengers to split? Silly leader. The most feared thing in this world is laymen directing insiders. Absolutely not used to it, come one by one. If I can't beat you, it's not good for me to leave. Where in the world isn't home? Going on like this, don't treat the Avengers as human beings and want to treat the big guy as a coded slave. Look at the future. Who will work hard for you? The ass is still hot, like a conspiracy? This is a proper way to kill the chicken and take the egg. You, Ross was almost ashamed. Duke is not an American, and I have no right to ask him. As for his problem, someone will go there, and the following is your business. Bucky couldn't help it again. No way. I remember. Duke's ID is an American ID. He's Chinese, Ross roared. Tsk. Sure enough, in the eyes of American white skins, all yellow skins are not Americans, even if they have green cards. But Chinese, tsk. This is the country that always pays attention to equality, whispering sound. Duke stared at Karajan and laughed when he saw this scene. What are you laughing at? Diana asked. I remember a female star who immigrated to the United States with her mother when she was very young. In the past, Chinese people regarded her as their compatriot, but after Dunyang Baike marked her nationality, she said, oh, it turned out to be an American. As a result, at an Academy Awards ceremony. At the awards ceremony, the host introduced with a smile, a charming G girl from China. Diana chuckled softly. This is the difference. Fairy sister. Tsk. Chinese netizens who saw this scene joked that while Americans have accepted her as an American, the United States does not regard her as one of their own. Inside the Avengers headquarters, Secretary of State Ross was still speaking. Your actions have unlimited power and are unsupervised. Governments around the world can no longer tolerate this situation. We have a way to deal with it. Ross took a thick stack of documents from the assistant next to him and handed it to Wanda. Is this a book? Wanda asked, glancing at the cover. It's the Lagos Agreement, Ross replied. Because Ultron did not appear, the Sokovia Sky Garden event never happened, so the Sokovia Agreement was naturally changed to the Lagos Agreement. I thought it was the Godzilla Agreement, Bucky complained. Hawkeye followed suit with a smile. I knew he didn't dare to go to Karazhan's door. If Godzilla appears again, let's see who will solve the problem for him then. Ross was visibly frustrated. Okay, everyone, let's calm down, Steve said, patting the table lightly. He looked directly at Ross. We understand what you're saying, but what if we don't sign this agreement? Ross narrowed his eyes. The 117 countries that approved it stated that the Avengers are no longer a private organization. They will operate under the supervision of a joint group of countries, and whether to dispatch them will be up to the group to decide. Everyone frowned. Are they really going to treat us like slaves? If we don't stay here, we have our own places to go. If you don't agree, then you retire, Bucky said solemnly after a moment of silence. Then let's change our name to Justice and Sunkeeper. You're still the Night's Watch, Tony quipped. Anyway, I've been annoyed with the word Avenger for a long time. Why do we only have revenge? Do we have to fail once? I suggest changing the name. There's no Charles Spencer here, since the Sokovia incident didn't happen, nor did he think about signing a contract. Ross was speechless. At that moment, a voice descended from the sky. By the way, didn't you just kill a few black people? Why are you so nervous? If you want to seize power, just say it. It's sloppy, which makes me look down on you. Ross frowned. The voice was too familiar. Everyone was silent, especially Falcon, whose expression darkened. Well, he was already dark-skinned, so it was hard to tell. Oh, I'm sorry, Falcon. I didn't mean you. I was referring to a few black people from Netheria, commonly known as Nihuo. End of this chapter. Chapter 387, Rose Duke. Rose's face tightened with a deep frown. Suddenly, a golden sword appeared above his head, exuding immense power. Rose was so terrified that he began to sweat profusely. I heard you wanted to find someone to educate me? Now that you have a sword hanging over your head, you should think about how to save yourself first, Duke said, his voice dripping with menace. You. Rose's beard trembled with anger. I don't believe you dare to kill me. Duke sneered. Do I need to report to anyone to kill you? If you die, who will complain for you? Rose was silent, his face pale. Besides, you won't die in the traditional sense. I can kill you and put another soul in your body and you'll still be alive. Let me think. How about a pig's soul? Imagine the Secretary of State eating slop. That video would go viral on YouTube. Rose's eyes widened in horror. Duke continued. By the way, it doesn't matter if you die. I know there are beings in this world called Skrulls. They've been rooted on Earth for a long time. Do you know about the Skrulls? Rose stared at him, confused. What the hell are you trying to say? Don't think you can threaten me. It's useless, even if you kill me. I'm not alone. After I die, others will take my place. Since you don't know, let me enlighten you. Skrulls are a very magical alien race. They can take the appearance of anyone and live as that person. Coincidentally, I know a small organization of Skrulls on Earth, so it shouldn't be difficult to get them to take action. Everyone around them trembled. Skrulls? Aliens that can become someone else? They've already taken root among real people. Although rare and most have left, some still remain on Earth, Duke explained. The Black Widow suddenly exclaimed, I remember that in the information released by S.H.I.E.L.D., there is indeed such a race. However, it was recorded that they all left. Yes, but not all of them, Duke paused. Back then, the Skrulls fled to Earth to avoid being hunted. Their spaceship was destroyed after entering the atmosphere, and the Skrulls dispersed. The day they left, many remained. Today, I know there are at least 2 still here, but their numbers are very small. Will it be dangerous? Captain America asked. Rose was now completely terrified. He wasn't afraid of death, but he couldn't allow anyone to live in this world with his face. His family, his friends, could suffer. No. The scroll's ability to transform is limited. They can only maintain a certain physical ability, which means that Steve's holy light won't be used, and the memories they store are only from the last few years. They can't store older memories. Additionally, their strength is very limited, Duke reassured. The Avengers breathed a sigh of relief. Just weak, but Rose couldn't calm down. Although the Skrulls weren't talented enough to become top powerhouses, they could infiltrate the top levels of government. If they found a loophole, replacing the president wouldn't be a problem. He steadied himself, glanced at the golden sword above his head, and said, "Duke, one day you will die too." "Ah, don't worry about me. I'll die later than you," Duke replied nonchalantly. "You." Rose was choked with anger, almost having a heart attack. "Oh, by the way, I shouldn't have a problem living for 1,000 years, Duke added with a smirk. "Pfft, even if you have great power, you cannot override the country, power, or territory," Rose retorted. "Bah!" Duke spat. "You just want to put on a hat, cast a spell, and pick peaches, and you say it so openly. Ever since you caught Banner, I know what kind of person you are. Oh, speaking of Banner, he has a baby on the way, even though it hasn't been born yet." "Humph," Rose snorted coldly. "Well, I don't want to tell you anything more. Since you said that a strong force cannot override a country, power, or territory, let me tell you a story," Duke said, his tone shifting. "When I was traveling through the Star Realm, I once went to a place called Earth." Eve, Ryan was immediately puzzled. "Earth? Isn't this the Earth?" "You can think of it as another Earth in the multiverse, very similar to this one. The amazing thing is that there are also Avengers there, but they call themselves the League of Haters." "What kind of name is that? It's not as good as the Avengers." "Their faces and names are the same as ours, but unfortunately, they were all killed by snipers in the end." Everyone shuddered. Could they be so miserable in another parallel world? The most powerful country there is China. When the whole world fell, China survived by relying on its unique abilities. In that world, demons, angels, gluttonous death legions, and even other high-level civilizations of the gods are all vying for the Earth's resources. Humans are weak, and their technology is similar to ours. An angel can easily blow up a planet with a sword. Everyone gasped. Amazing, right? I was also shocked at the time. They are much stronger than us. In the end, China developed a divine body. Warriors born from ancient super-god genes can compete with demons, angels, gluttons, and other invaders. Although it was difficult, they at least protected their homeland. There, the god of war chopped off 1/3 of the planet with a single axe. Nuclear weapons and such are no longer useful. Humans are like chickens, at the mercy of others. In that world, there is a woman called Qiangwei, who is also my favorite person. Ah! There was a cry of surprise, and everyone was a little confused. The sound cut off. About a minute later, it resumed. Ahem, something went wrong just now. Let's continue. The Avengers were very confused, but many were interested in guessing the situation. They must have been taught by Diana. Who told you to say favorite? Qiangwei has the abilities of space-time gene and micro-wormhole. Isn't that powerful? Everyone was dumbfounded. Time and space genes, micro-wormholes. This sounded very advanced. Her father, General Duco, is the leader of this group of super-god warriors, but he is just a mortal, just like Ross. That's right, you heard me correctly. A mortal actually wants to control a super-god warrior who can destroy a planet with a single axe. In that world, gods are everything. Only a planet protected by gods can be safe. But Earth has no gods. They try to create gods and use human bodies to control these super-god warriors. But he overplayed his hand and was eventually killed by a demon soldier. A mere soldier, that's all. End of this chapter. Chapter 388, Captain America, Vacation Tomorrow. The story continues. In the end, Shaolin became a god. He used his own strength to forge the Black Great Wall defense line in a few years, protecting the sun and the Earth, and completely hiding the Earth from the sight of many cosmic bosses. It slowly developed. The Avengers were all dumbfounded. With one's own power, forge the Black Great Wall, block the sun, the Earth. Why does this feel like an anime? What they don't know is that this is really anime. In that world, I'm just a mid-level person. Duke is so awesome, but he is still only mid-tier? The Avengers were all dumbfounded. A guy like Thanos can easily be killed if he loses it in the super god universe. Lu Chuang can blow his head off with an axe. He was a ruthless man who easily killed Dabo Lun. The God of War's axe is much more powerful than Thor's axe. Dear Mr. Secretary of State, do you still think that you can manage extraordinary people? Duke sneered. Ross's angry heart stent almost collapsed. If extraordinary people cannot be managed, then this world will become a world of disorder. Ah! Duke laughed loudly, and he stopped laughing for 5 minutes. Everyone was also brainwashed for 5 minutes, and their heads were buzzing. Was it made by the weak? Isn't it all made by the strong? In this world, when is it the turn of the weak to speak? Ross was speechless. What about me? If I want, I can easily take over the whole of America, kill your president, or make him a puppet. If I want, I can go live on other planets, even collapse the Earth. As he spoke, Duke's voice became colder. So, do you have any countermeasures? Without waiting for Ross to speak, Duke continued. You have no countermeasures. You can only watch the destruction of the Earth. 30 years ago, Apocalypse could destroy the Earth. He easily lifted the nuclear warheads of the whole world into the sky. What can you do? If he wanted, he could detonate the nuclear warheads, and then the Earth would become a hotbed wrapped in radiation. Humans would perish, and other creatures would also mutate and perish. It's just a pity that he wants the Earth, otherwise he would have killed everyone long ago. Ross shivered. He naturally knew what happened more than 30 years ago. At that time, he witnessed the doomsday scene of nuclear warheads being lifted into the sky. He was terrified that the warheads would fall, but fortunately, they ascended into space and detonated. Looking back now, if Apocalypse had turned the warheads around and attacked, who could have stopped it? Even if it was stopped at that time, nearly half of the entire Earth would be uninhabitable. And the remaining half of the people would also face a large number of mutated biological attacks after being irradiated in the days to come. So terrifying. I didn't arrange it to prevent this disaster. Are you still alive now? The weak make the rules. It really makes me laugh out loud. Try to control the god with a mortal body, and you will end up like that Duco. Tsk. Goodbye. I hope you take care of yourself, General Ross. As soon as the words fell, the golden sword stabbed down and sank straight into Ross's body. The Avengers were all dumbfounded. Ah! But it seems that the person is not dead. It's just a bit of a sense of geo that is not quite right. Get out of the way! Steve yelled, grabbing Peggy Carter away from Ross. The rest of the Avengers didn't understand, but they followed the captain's pace and stayed away. What's happening? Before Bucky could ask, a roar interrupted him. Roar! Ross roared, his eyes gradually turning red, and his whole body suddenly swelled up. His skin was blood red, and he instantly turned into... What the heck? Tony quickly summoned his armor and put it on. The rest of the Avengers also quickly set up a fighting posture. This is the Hulk with a different skin, the Red Giant? Falcon said. It's exactly the same, Black Widow added, her eye is narrowing as she prepared for the worst. Widow's eyes widened. What did Duke do, that golden sword? Steve suddenly realized something. That's right, the Red Hulk. The original Red Hulk was created to defeat the Hulk. General Ross agreed to let the two supervillains, Murdoch and the leader, use gamma rays to turn him into a red-skinned giant. Unlike the Hulk, the Red Giant can still maintain a clear mind and thinking after transformation. During this time, he even defeated the Hulk's old enemy, Abomination. Later, he was recruited by Captain America to join the Avengers, becoming teammates with his old rival, the Hulk, to fight side by side. Just now, the golden sword contained gamma rays, a drop of Banner's blood, and Duke's spell prohibition. What exactly it became, I don't know at all. Roar, why, ah! Looking at his blood-red body, Ross was dumbfounded and collapsed. It seems that he still has consciousness, but fool. He glanced at Steve, who was shining with golden light, and instinctively realized that this was his worst enemy. He strode out, broke through the glass, and jumped off the stairs. Is he okay? Black Widow was shocked. Banner is fine. He should be fine, Tony said. Captain, do you want to bring him back? Falcon asked. At this time, Duke's voice appeared again. Ah, what a surprise. Tsk. The former father-in-law turned into Red Hulk. Ahaha. I have already informed Banner to beat him down. It seems this guy still maintains consciousness. As expected of a veteran soldier, with extraordinary will. It's just, his heart is full of tyranny, but it seems that his basic judgment is still there. You let him go out and wreak havoc, Steve demanded. What's your attitude? How should I say he's also your creator? Don't worry, Banner will rush over soon, so you don't have to worry about this matter. It's just right. Let him feel the fear of being isolated and arrested, experience Banner's panic at that time. Didn't he always want to control you? Now, he will be controlled too. After speaking, he hung up the communication. Captain, what should we do? Falcon asked. Didn't Banner pass by? Believe in his ability, Captain America said. Falcon shook his head. I mean this agreement. Rhodes curled his lips. Although Ross will be under control now, they will definitely send someone. What will we do then? You can all run, but I can't. My family is all there, Tony said. You are the safest, Black Widow glared. Tomorrow is on vacation, Captain America suddenly said. What? Vacation? Yes, go on vacation tomorrow. Let's all go, take a day off, and show these leaders our determination. Do nothing tomorrow, don't do any tasks, and relax. Okay, I agree. Go BBQ. End of this chapter. Chapter 389, Image from the Future. 1. Buck Q, here I come. Where do you go for Buck Q? To Karajan, of course, Duke replied. Coincidentally, Duke's new version of the scene trial had already started, Natasha's stalker trial. What should I do? Natasha, also known as the Widow, asked eagerly. It's very simple. You have to go through 2 trials. One is the test of Ravenholt Manor, and the other is Father of Dragons, Duke explained. 2? Natasha's eyes widened. This seemed much more challenging than what Steve had faced. Duke nodded. Yes, there are 2, and neither of them involves a spiritual body. That, Natasha began, but Duke interrupted. Ravenholt Manor is a sacred place for stalkers, much like the Vatican. This part is relatively simple, just some training for stalkers. However, don't take it lightly, because the experience of stalkers is quite unique, Duke elaborated. After completing the test of Ravenholt Manor, you will unlock the second instance, Father of the Dragon. If you can successfully break out, you will receive a legendary weapon, the Tooth of the Father of the Dragon. Legendary weapon? Natasha's eyes widened even more. Yes, a pair of daggers. Well, they are technically daggers, but almost the size of short swords. They are called Golod, Twilight of the Dragon King, and Tyrionsh, Ancient Nightmare, Duke said, manifesting a pair of extremely domineering daggers. Seeing the black and red daggers shining with flames, Natasha's eyes lit up immediately. Why don't I have a weapon? Steve complained. Because you are a man. Men still want benefits, but don't you know that women come first? Duke glanced at him. Steve smiled awkwardly. These 2 weapons, the Dragonfather's Tooth, are not just for show. Holding them, your melee attacks have a certain chance to gain the Shadow of the World Destroyer effect, which can stack up to 50 times. When the effect is stacked to 30 layers, there is a chance to trigger the Wrath of the World Destroyer, Duke explained. The higher the number of Shadow of the Destroyer effects, the greater the chance of triggering. And the Wrath of the Destroyer will immediately give you 5 layers of the Shadow Energy effect of Rage and grant you 5 combo points after the skill, Duke continued. Finishing move? Natasha was a little confused. The finishing move is, you'll understand when you practice, but it's not easy to get the Dragonfather's Tooth easily, Duke warned. Is it difficult? Natasha asked, worried. It's not just about difficulty, it's a series of complex tasks. First, prove your value, hidden message, go to Ravenhold, catch the thief, Gillen's secret agent, assassination creed, you're done, collect Elementium gem clusters, secret of Karazhan, dragon's blood of the betrayer, victory in the abyss, sharpen your teeth, father of the great righteousness, Duke listed. Natasha was completely dumbfounded. So long? She didn't understand most of the tasks except for Karazhan's spies. Of course, besides being long, your final challenge is this, Duke said, manifesting the image of crazy Deathwing. The domineering aura seemed to bring about a catastrophe. Even though it was just a shadow, the superheroes present felt suffocated. Natasha's heart was about to jump out of her chest. How about it? It's up to you to choose. In fact, you can get the inheritance of the Stalker just by clearing the test of Ravenholt Manor. The The father of the dragon is just a bonus reward, Duke laughed. Yes! Natasha took a deep breath and nodded heavily. They were all here, so why not? It was fine if she hadn't seen those 2 daggers, but now that she had, she couldn't let them slip away. Besides, she realized that as a stalker, she needed weapons more than Steve, who relied on the holy light, even though the power of shadow was also very strong. Good, then go in, Duke said, waving his hand and sending her into the trial. Outside Ravenholt Manor, the widowed sister stood, her face a mask of determination. Yet, inwardly, she couldn't help but smile secretly. Wahaha, she thought. Go crazy and try an infinite loop? Collecting source-quality gem clusters. In the Dragon Soul raid, collect source-quality gem clusters from monsters to obtain 333 shadow gems. After that, sharpen your teeth. Collect 60 source-quality gem clusters from monsters in the Dragon Soul raid. Wow, haha. Duke almost vomited blood collecting these back then. It took him a year to complete, mainly because he didn't care about it at the time and didn't go there every cooldown. Of course, it's not that the game version won't have a cooldown, but the drop rate is disheartening. Although it is a medium drop rate, Duke limited a monster to drop a maximum of 2 gems. In other words, if you are lucky, the widowed sister needs to kill 197 monsters to get them all. If you are unlucky, double that. 393. Heartbreaking. But it also helps the widow master her skills. As for the final challenge, the crazy Deathwing, well, it depends on her luck. After entering the illusion of the scene, the widowed sister was still dazed when a figure suddenly emerged from the black mist beside her. Startled, she immediately lashed out, but the figure dodged lightly. The man, shrouded in a black mask, was not angry at the sudden attack. You are the new thief apprentice, right? Your vigilance is not bad, and your body coordination is also very high. Come with me, he said. The official name of the occupation is stalker, but they seem to prefer calling themselves thieves. Perhaps, like Professor X, they are all laughing at themselves. Thus, the widow followed the man in black into Ravenholt Manor and began her probationary career as a stalker. Meanwhile, in the outside world, a video from the live broadcast room of Duke, the god of law on YouTube, went viral across the United States and the entire Earth. In short, wherever there was the internet, anyone who could bypass the firewall had seen this video. To be precise, it was not just a video, but more like a movie. The title of the live broadcast room was Image from the Future, a warning from the magic god Duke. Initially, nobody believed it. Despite Duke's credibility, the image seemed too cinematic. However, as the video spread wider, many characters in the video spoke out one after another. They claimed they didn't participate in any movie and had no idea what was going on. At this point, the world gradually panicked. People began to believe that this was a picture of the future obtained by Duke after peering into the future. For a time, doomsday theories resurfaced. Panic buying, riots, and other incidents emerged endlessly. But some people watched it as a movie. It's not that they didn't believe. They chose to believe in Duke. Because since Duke had thrown out the image of the future, he would definitely stop it. That big villain or something seemed very powerful, but Earth would surely win. End of this chapter. Chapter 390, Image from the Future, 2, in Karajan. What the hell is this armor? Why am I wearing it? Oh, crap. Dr. Banner covered his face in frustration. The images released by Duke started from the Battle of Wakanda. Banner appeared wearing the red anti-Hulk armor, but unfortunately, he wasn't very adept at using it. He ended up falling flat on the ground, earning a look of disdain from a black-skinned female officer. "You're actually wearing my Hulk armor?" Tony Stark said, chewing on a piece of fish roast sausage with a dull expression. "What? Anti-Hulk?" Banner was shocked. "Anti-Hulk? These aren't important. Why don't you become the Hulk? And why am I not in it?" Tony laughed, almost giving himself away. Because Avengers 2 only appeared at the beginning, there was no appearance of Ultron or Vision. Banner didn't join the Avengers, let alone be influenced by Wanda, and Tony's anti-Hulk armor didn't appear. "Yes, everyone doesn't know. Is this really an image of the future?" Peggy Carter asked, puzzled. "He has predicted the future many times, and they all happened, so I believe it. But I don't quite understand. Why did it explode?" Steve Rogers shook his head. War Machine emerged and rushed towards the edge of the obstacle. "Oh, it's me," Rhodes said. Then came the soldiers of Wakanda, forming a phalanx, ready for battle. The Avengers were a little surprised. It seemed that some superheroes were missing. After scanning, they only found Captain America, Black Widow, Bucky, Dr. Banner, and the Black Man who was obviously the leader of Wakanda. It looked like it should be, well, the King of Wakanda. T'Challa? "Hey, Steve, you look very sharp. I heard that there's a sharp brother on the Chinese internet. You look similar to him. This look, with an unshaven beard. If I didn't know you well, I wouldn't recognize you," Bucky joked. Peggy Carter glanced at Steve. "It's so ugly." "You actually copied Thor's beard," Tony complained maliciously. "But Bucky, why is your arm made of metal?" Falcon asked, curious. "How would I know?" Bucky was also puzzled. Not only did he have a metal arm, but he also had a gun. What kind of future is this? On the contrary, Agent Romanoff has also become very weathered. Speaking of which, why didn't I show up? Could it be that I died a long time ago? No way. I'm the protagonist. Tony laughed at himself. Peggy Carter slapped her eldest nephew severely. "Shut up." At this time, Wakanda was even more confused. The captain of the guard, Okoye, was shocked. "King, this strengthen the forest area's defenses." "Yes, King." Black Panther was very confused. He knew Captain America, but had never seen him in this context. As for this future image, he didn't know whether it was true or not, but let's prepare first. Then the screen changed. Thanos' troop carrier opened, and countless six-clawed aliens with steel and iron bones swarmed out, rushing towards the energy shield one after another. "It's suicide. They're draining the energy of the shield." Whoosh! Falcon appeared. "Oh yes, I'm still here." Falcon patted his chest, expressing his relief. Just now, he really thought he had died prematurely. None of them were fools. This was obviously the last battle. Even if it wasn't the final battle, there must have been several battles before this, and those who didn't make it may have died in the previous battles. War is like this. There will always be sacrifices. Now that it was out, he was finally relieved. He breathed a sigh of relief, but now he became nervous. Then everyone became nervous because they saw that the King of Wakanda actually opened the barrier and let the six-clawed aliens in. Why? Someone was puzzled. "This is a decisive king with good strength," Steve said. "There must be something behind, and they are not allowed to go around the rear line of defense," Peggy Carter said. "Behind." "Haha, this Steve feels too hard to hit," Tony joked again. "You didn't show up," Steve retorted. The battlefield had turned into a gruesome meat grinder, with Yaren valiantly fighting several six-clawed aliens. At a critical moment, a colorful beam of light descended from the sky. Everyone recognized it immediately. It was the Rainbow Bridge. "Is it Thor?" someone asked. "It should be," another replied. "He's long overdue." Sure enough, as the brilliance faded, Thor, the god of thunder, appeared, accompanied by two mascots, a tree-like figure and a raccoon. In Northern Europe, Jane Foster, who was resting after a busy day, saw the scene unfold. "That's Rocket Raccoon! He found it!" she exclaimed. It was a pity Thor wasn't there to realize that this was what Duke had mentioned when he changed his weapon. "Where's his hammer?" someone with sharp eyes inquired, noticing the change. The small hammer had been replaced with a massive battle axe, which looked far more imposing. Thor then demonstrated his power. Thunder struck down, clearing a large area of the battlefield in an instant. At that moment, the screen changed, revealing a purple-skinned figure. Moreover, the information was marked with special effects. The eternal clan of Titan star Thanos, the mastermind behind the invasion of New York, the destroyer of the universe, and a powerful Titan army under his command. Here it is, Titan. People understood that this was the boss behind everything. However, the location was not Earth, but a desolate, post-apocalyptic wasteland with a mechanical punk aesthetic. Then, the Avengers saw a familiar face. "Isn't that the guy from last time? What's his name?" Bucky asked. "Stephen Strange. It seems he has succeeded and embarked on a new path," Steve replied. "Yes, that's him. Now he's in Camartage, right?" In Camartage, the magician apprentices were resting after a day of practice when the video was released. They immediately recognized the familiar figure in the video. "Isn't that strange? It seems to be him. What's he wearing? A magic floating cloak?" "Looks like it." Strange, who had just begun to grasp his new abilities, was also stunned. He had come to find a way to heal his hands, not to confront the big boss of an alien planet, but he now understood why Duke had said his path was not in Karazhan. At this moment, everyone watching the video across the planet understood what this villainous boss intended to do. Survivor of billions of lives, collect all 6 gems, snap your fingers, and 50% of all life will be wiped out. He considers it an act of mercy. I believe everyone now understands the gravity of the situation. As for me, I am preparing to conclude this story. I could write at least 150 chapters, but now I may not be able to continue much longer. Just a few more days, and it will come to an end before the 15th. So, the updates will be slow these days. I wanted to give you an explanation, although the ending will be quite rushed. End of this chapter. Chapter 391, Image from the Future 3. All over the world, people watching the video were dumbfounded. Eliminate 50% of life? Even the Umbrella Corporation in Resident Evil isn't as crazy as this. They just want to destroy the Earth, but Thanos wants to destroy 50% of life across the entire universe. In other words, not only Earth, but also other alien life forms? Can he really do it? For a moment, the people on Earth were furious. Ah! The biggest joke of the year, a butcher who murdered half the universe, is actually an environmentalist. Why do I feel a little sad? Is this really the future? Will it really happen? Oh, so I'm here. Tony breathed a sigh of relief. The screen flashed, and the game started. Tony pushed a building down from the sky, and it was 100% solid. Unfortunately, the building instantly turned into a crow chasing Tony. Then came a squirting cowboy, a tattooed muscular guy, and little Spider? Everyone was surprised. Everyone knew that Spider-Man had appeared years ago, but the big guys didn't pay much attention to him. In other words, they didn't want to recruit him. After all, the purpose of a masked Lone Ranger is to keep his identity secret. Joining the Avengers might not be a good thing for Spider-Man. It's also nice to have a maverick superhero. American Team 3 had not been released, so the big guys had not worked with Spider-Man, but Tony had already analyzed the identity of Peter Parker. In New York, within Queens. Oh, no! Peter Parker covered his face. He recognized himself at a glance, even though the suit had become more advanced. Aunt May, who was still charming, was also watching from the sidelines, eating dried fruit while watching the video with relish. After seeing her nephew's reaction, she was immediately puzzled. What happened to you? Oh, no, nothing. Hey, nothing. Peter hurriedly laughed. He was too nervous just now and completely forgot that Spider-Man's appearance was not revealed. The soul that was just scared almost separated, and he was still worried about Aunt May. It turned out he was overthinking it. However, he frowned curiously. When did he go to Titan to fight side by side with Iron Man Tony? He didn't know that he would show his face at the end, and he didn't know how Aunt May would react then. A huge satellite fell down, smashing firmly, but Thanos was not injured at all. Who are these people? Tony asked in bewilderment. Retro denim, tattooed muscular guy, mantis man, metal parts girl? How do we know? The people on Earth who were watching the video suddenly tightened their hearts. Hurry up. Pull it off. Definitely pull it off. Hurry up. Come on. Hands are loose. Come on. Victory is in sight. Come on. Come on. Gah. Oh. This is a failure. Is this Quill an idiot? He's making trouble at a critical moment. Isn't this an internal suppression arranged by Thanos? Ah, I'm going to kill this bastard. No one knew that Quill was furious because of Gamora's death. People only knew that he was the chief culprit that caused the balance of victory to fall short. As the screen turned, it switched to the Wakanda battlefield. The killing and being slaughtered continued. The huge meat grinder tore through the edge barrier of Wakanda. Wanda came out and solved the huge crisis on the scene with one shot. It brightened everyone's eyes and made them more hopeful about overcoming the disaster. Pietro was confused. Wanda, what about me? Why didn't you find me? The battle had reached this point, and everything that should appear had also appeared. Obviously, it was divided into 2 battlefields. One was on Earth in Wakanda, and the other was on the ruined Titan. Although it was unclear why, the U.S. team and the others looked more like refugees and homeless people. But the battle continued. The battle had reached its midpoint, and all the cards should have been on the table. Yet, something was amiss. Wanda sensed it too, and held her brother's hand tightly. "I'm not going to am I?" Pietro forced a smile, though his eyes betrayed his fear. "No, don't you see that there are many who haven't appeared yet? Maybe this battle didn't gather all the heroes together." Wanda tried to comfort him. "Sister, don't comfort me," Pietro replied, shaking his head. He wasn't foolish, he knew something was wrong. Wanda was on the battlefield, and he wasn't there. It was a clear sign that something had gone awry. "Who is that robot?" Captain America asked, curiosity evident in his voice. Tony squinted at the figure. Obviously, there's an infinity gem embedded in its forehead. He seems to be the one protecting the frontline battlefield. Although they didn't know which gem it was, everyone was certain of its significance. Eventually, General Deathblade appeared, forcing the robot to stand and fight. Unfortunately, the robot was defeated, but was later rescued by Captain America. Dr. Banner, piloting the anti-Hulk armor, managed to kill the Black Dwarf. On the other side, Black Widow, Wanda, and the black-skinned female guard teamed up to kill Proxima Centauri. It seemed like victory was within reach, as one general after another fell. Tony launched a series of combined attacks, but they only managed to make Thanos bleed a single drop. Despite the fierce effort, the result was disheartening. Thanos' power was now undeniable. With just a few heavy punches, Thanos easily destroyed Tony's armor and pierced his lower left abdomen with a sword. People watching from their computers and mobile phones were stunned. Thanos was overwhelmingly strong, treating the heroes like playthings. They finally understood that killing the generals was futile as long as Thanos remained. He could always turn the tide. In the end, Stephen Strange handed the time gem to Thanos, who opened a portal and left. The Battle of the Titans ended in defeat. "Is that a space gem? Isn't it in Asgard?" Captain America was shocked. "It seems that Asgard is over," Tony replied, clutching his lower left abdomen. "Suddenly, it hurts." At Comitage, the atmosphere was tense. Mordo grabbed Strange by the neck, furious. "What did you do? You handed over the time gem? Carmitage has spent its entire existence protecting that gem, and you—" "Stop, Mordo." The Ancient One appeared, her voice calm but commanding. "Supreme Master, Mordo protested. "Release him," she ordered. With a huff, Mordo pushed Strange to the ground, seething with anger. "Ahem, I really don't know what that was, and I don't know either." "Then, that's a movie, isn't it? The future?" Strange coughed softly, trying to explain. "It seems that fate is truly with you. Come with me," the Ancient One said, turning to leave. End of this chapter. Chapter 392, Image from the Future, 4. The Ancient One led Stephen Strange to a secret room where the Eye of Agamotto was stored at the center. "It's it." Stephen Strange's eyes widened in surprise. "It looks like it chose you," the Ancient One remarked. Wait, did you make a mistake? I came here to find a way to heal my hands, not to fight some villain behind the scenes. And you saw it. I lost in the end," Stephen Strange said, scratching his neck nervously. The Ancient One remained unmoved. "Fate is a very mysterious thing, and I can't see it all. But since it has chosen you, you can't escape it. From the moment you stepped into Camartage, your fate was destined to change." Stephen Strange took a deep breath and crouched on the ground, holding his head in his hands. "I need to calm down." "You can't have it right now," the Ancient One said. "Do you want me to fight Thanos?" Stephen Strange asked, looking up. "No, you should be too late." "What do you mean?" Stephen Strange asked, confused. The Ancient One sighed. "Although I'm not sure why, Duke seems to be planning a counterattack, just like I did before. And you, obviously, can't catch up." In the past, she had peered into the future countless times to resolve disasters in advance. Now, Duke was doing the same. However, once one chain of disasters is resolved, new ones inevitably appear, creating an endless cycle. She no longer had the time or ability to persuade Duke. In fact, she wasn't even sure if Duke's approach was wrong. Maybe it was. Maybe. She was wrong. Stephen Strange was slightly shocked. "Then if I say that, can I?" "Your future doesn't depend on Thanos. There are new disasters waiting for us on Earth, and you don't have much time left. From today, I will train you twice as hard," the Ancient One declared. "What?" Stephen Strange exclaimed. Meanwhile, in a hospital in New York, Christine covered her mouth with one hand, her eyes wide open in shock. A colleague noticed her reaction. "Christine, is that strange?" "Isn't it?" Christine replied, her voice trembling. "By the way, I haven't seen him for a long time. Why don't you call him and see where he is?" the colleague suggested. "Forget it," Christine shook her head, recalling the email Stephen had sent her. She didn't know what to say. "I haven't seen him for a long time. I don't know where he went." "Did you break up?" "We're not really." "Well?" Christine trailed off. "Well," the colleague said, understanding. Despite her words, Christine watched the video over and over, each time feeling heartbroken as she saw Stephen being beaten miserably by Thanos. Although her colleagues couldn't recognize him, she could. Stephen's habits had long been engraved in her mind. "Where did you go?" she whispered to herself. The scene shifted, and the battle escalated again. Through a portal, Thanos crossed the endless dimension and arrived on Earth. His presence alone shocked the League of Superheroes. His aura was simply too overwhelming. With the power of the Infinity Stones, his combat prowess was unparalleled. In front of him, even superheroes seemed insignificant. Dr. Banner rushed forward in the anti-Hulk armor, but was quickly immobilized by Thanos' power. "Why can't you become the Hulk?" Tony asked. "How do I know?" Banner replied, frustrated. Captain America was sent flying by a purple energy wave. The Black Panther was grabbed by the neck and slammed hard onto the ground, causing it to tremble with a resounding boom. Audience members gasped, "This won't break his neck, will it?" In Wakanda, the Black Panther subconsciously touched his neck. The captain of the guard behind him watched with concern. "King?" "I am fine," the Black Panther reassured. The most astonishing was Falcon, who initially rushed forward confidently but ended up rolling on the ground the next moment, not knowing what had happened, looking like a clown. Falcon was visibly conflicted. In the end, Vision was willing to sacrifice his life to prevent left the universe from being wiped out. What worried countless viewers the most was that this killer wanted to kill his girlfriend, who loved him the most. Countless people cried, mourning for Wanda and admiring Vision's choice to intervene and dedicate his life. "Sister, you actually fell in love with a robot. You and a robot will not have," Pietro complained. "Offspring." "Shut up," Wanda glared at him. Okay, Pietro relented. Captain America asked, "Who the hell is he?" "The voice sounds a bit like Jarvis. Could it be Ultron?" Tony speculated, making an error. "Ultron?" Captain America questioned. That's the fully intelligent robot I was planning to build, but the project was abandoned. If we had that gem, it might have been possible to complete it. However, Thor took it back to Asgard. If it hadn't been taken away, it should have been born by now, right?" Tony explained, leading to a significant misunderstanding. The war machine fired wildly, but was eventually crushed and fell to the ground. "Hiss, what a grand way to die," Rhodes muttered to himself. Bucky and the black-skinned female bodyguard met the same fate as Captain America. Black Widow was trapped by countless ground spikes. The little tree man was also blown away. In the end, Wanda destroyed the yellow gem, preventing Thanos from collecting all 6 gems and snapping his fingers. The world audience immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It's okay. 50% won't die. Although it's tragic, both sides will suffer, right? The superheroes are all wiped out, and Thanos' side is also in bad shape. Although he got 5 gems, luckily he couldn't collect them all. Unfortunately, they were naive. The screen shifted sharply, showing Thanos using the time gem to restore the shattered Vision. He then took the gem and killed Vision again. At this point, the 6 gems were fully assembled. Oh no, do not. Why is that? I guessed it a long time ago. He has the time stone. Damn magician. Everyone began to blame Stephen Strange. Without him, Thanos wouldn't have collected all the gems. At the last moment, Thor rushed over and struck Thanos with an axe from the sky. In the clash between Thunder and Energy Shock, Thunder won, striking Thanos in the chest. The turn of events was too sudden. Oh, yes, I knew victory would come. It can't be that simple, can it? They hit him in the chest. But that's an alien. They couldn't kill him no matter how hard they tried before. This tragedy, as they had feared, unfolded. Thanos snapped his fingers. Everything vanished. Bucky turned to ashes and disappeared. Countless Wakanda warriors were reduced to ashes. The Black Panther disappeared before the captain of the guards. The little tree man Falcon and Wanda all vanished. On Titan, Quill, Mantis Woman, Drax, Strange, and Spider-Man also disappeared. Only Tony and Nebula the Cyborg survived. End of this chapter. Chapter 393, Image from the Future, 5. Aunt May froze, and the fruit plate in her hand fell to the ground with a clang. Turning around, the little guy wanted to run. Peter Parker. Ah, cough, that's not me, Aunt May. Listen to me, it really isn't mine, Peter stammered, trying to explain. The little spider wanted to complain about everything. Pete, Duke, why did you show your face to my brother in the end? P.S. It is said that the little spider is the best at filming, with all stunt actors on stage, obviously only needing to be in charge of dubbing. Stop fooling me. I raised you all these years. Don't you think I know you? You've become Spider-Man, haven't you? Do you know how much I worry about you every time? Aunt May's voice was filled with concern and frustration as she grabbed the fruit plate and threw it at him. I flash! Peter dodged swiftly, shooting a web to block the incoming plate. Okay, how dare you say it's not you? Aunt May challenged. Peter hesitated, realizing he was caught. Ahaha, it's okay, I'm really not Spider-Man. With that, he jumped out through the window, using his web to swing away. Hey, it's a big trouble now. If the enemy knows what he looks like, his relatives and friends will be in danger. It seems that there is only one option left. Avengers 3 is over, but the video is not completely over. It is still going on. Maria Hill and Nick Fury also turned into ash and disappeared, leaving behind a collar with the logo of Captain Marvel. The rest is left for Duke to play freely. In New York, a news helicopter covering the chaos crashed into a building, causing shocking sparks. Numerous vehicles collided on the road, leading to a series of explosions and car accidents. The leadership of the government has disappeared. Old and new leadership groups are vying for power, and the lower classes are descending into violence and bloodshed. The era of disorder has begun, and the entire Earth is collapsing. Duke laughed wickedly, turning the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Japan into ashes. Bank robberies, assaults, and murders became daily occurrences. Worst of all, society was collapsing. With 50% of the human population on Earth gone, key places lost professional workers, leading to a series of collapses. New York City's subway system was completely submerged in water after losing its continuously working pumping system. This wasn't just in New York, but all over the world. The pumping system required labor, but now, without workers, people were too busy to manage the drainage systems. Subways and other places were flooded. 7 days later, nuclear reactors were destroyed by fire and high temperatures due to the failure of the water cooling systems. Violent nuclear explosions and radiation turned places with nuclear energy into no man's land. A year later, the freezing and thawing effects of water riddled the streets with cracks. 2 to 4 years later, in New York and other cities, the patchy streets were overrun with weeds, and the roots of backstreet trees rose above the surface, growing downward to ravage the depleted sewer systems once again. Violence was everywhere. The audience who saw this scene were terrified. They couldn't help asking themselves, would the above things happen if the world really lost 50% of its population? The answer was yes. The leadership hierarchy would collapse, and the states in the United States would still have their own military and power. The people in the lower class would probably scramble to snatch supplies, and a society of no man's land might really be staged. Thinking of the scene of society collapsing, people felt terrified. If the event of 50% disappearance really happened, it would not be as beautiful as in the movie. The collapse of society and the annihilation of order were bound to occur. The Avengers and superheroes everywhere were also dumbfounded. Only the supervillains were celebrating and looking forward to the arrival of this disordered world. The movie ended, and a lel in of subtitles appeared. It read, "Many people are wondering why only a few superheroes have appeared, while most remain absent. Did they not realize the threat in advance, or did they perish in the initial confrontation, or... This world has never been beautiful, it's just that someone is carrying the burden for you." Tony and Nebula return, and the Avengers find and kill Thanos, but the Infinity Stones are destroyed, leaving Hope gone. Suddenly, people felt Thor's self-blame and guilt, and some didn't blame him as much. After all, who could have predicted that Thanos would not die like that? The video went off, then suddenly came back on. 5 years later. 5 years later, people were dumbfounded. In this future, Dr. Banner and the Hulk have merged into one, becoming Green Banner. The rest of the Avengers remain largely the same, except for Thor, the god of thunder, who has become a fat, long-haired man. Some Thor fans couldn't hold back their disappointment and expressed their dismay. Fortunately, Thor is not here, Steve said with a smile. Everyone else smiled too. They were curious to know what had transpired over the past 5 years. 5 years later, the Avengers search for the Infinity Stones. The details are sparse, presented to the world audience in the form of a slideshow, but it is clear that they obtained the stones. However, Black Widow's self-sacrifice hit everyone hard, especially Hawkeye. "Natasha!" he cried out in anguish. Hulk snapped his fingers and brought back those who had disappeared 5 years earlier. Even the mighty Hulk paid the price, with one of his arms severely damaged. This made everyone realize once again the immense power of Thanos. Using the Infinity Stones to destroy the Infinity Stones was a feat only someone as strong as Banner could attempt. Unfortunately, 5 years after the villain Thanos returned, the Avengers had to fight him once more. The most thrilling moment was the large gathering of heroes from all over the world. The brothers and sisters of the Black Panther, the chief female guard, and Falcon appeared one after another. When countless magic circles materialized, people cheered. The superheroes had assembled, and it was time for another decisive battle. The superheroes who had died in battle 5 years ago were revived and once again stepped onto the battlefield without hesitation. Audiences all over the world understood that if they died this time, they would never live again. Doctor Strange, Drax, Mantis, Star-Lord, and Spider-Man returned from Titan. The Wakanda army assembled, and their advanced armament once again amazed the world. Bucky, Groot, Valkyrie, Wanda, the King, as well as the people of Asgard and the group of magicians all appeared. The Wasp showed up, and Ant-Man at home exclaimed, "Hope!" All the girlfriends had shown up, but where was he? Little Pepper appeared in blue armor, and there was a close-up of her. Suddenly, a huge monster rushed out of the collapsed building, and Ant-Man was relieved to see it. The Hulk, War Machine, and Rocket also appeared one after another. The heroes of the past were back, and the melee was on the verge of breaking out. The world audience watching was excited. In the end, justice triumphed over evil. But this time, it was Iron Man Tony who snapped his fingers, restoring the Thanos Legion to its original history at the cost of his own life. The catastrophe was over. A generation of Iron Man had come to an end, and countless people watched and cried on the spot. At this moment, the stock price of Stark Industries rose steadily. Tony. End of this chapter. Chapter 394, Space Expeditionary Force. Iron Man's funeral, attended by countless heroes, added a touch of sadness and solemnity to the catastrophe. Tony Stark watched the scene with a mix of emotions. "Seeing my own funeral, I suddenly felt very strange," he said with a forced chuckle. Peggy Carter gave him a stern look. "You have to live a good life for me." Tony glanced around, noticing his father, Howard Stark, had disappeared. He wondered if Howard was avoiding the painful sight of his son's death. After all, it's hard for any parent to see their child die. Howard, hiding in a corner, whispered to himself, "My granddaughter is so cute." As the video ended, the entire Earth was far from quiet. Everyone knew what had happened. Thanos had snapped his fingers, causing 50% of the Earth's population to vanish. The sudden loss of people led to a shortage of special occupations that couldn't be replenished in time. The upper-level leadership collapsed, making it impossible to establish a new leadership mechanism. Social order crumbled, and everyone was too scared to work. Special types of jobs couldn't be arranged quickly enough. Soon, the subway systems flooded due to lack of maintenance. Nuclear plants exploded and radiation spread. The situation was dire. Imagine how many planes were in the sky when Thanos snapped his fingers. According to unofficial statistics, 50 planes fly daily, each carrying around 200 passengers. If half of the pilots disappeared, 250 planes would fall from the sky like missiles. If they crashed into populated areas, the devastation would be unimaginable. On highways, countless cars suddenly lost their drivers, leading to numerous accidents. Homes using electricity and gas faced explosions, and high-rise buildings experienced power cuts. The death toll wasn't just the 50% that Thanos snapped away, it was much higher due to the ensuing chaos. In the following months, a new order was established and ruled for 5 years. But when the leaders who disappeared 5 years ago returned, a power struggle between the old and new groups began. The returning leaders, without power or soldiers, were no match for the new ones. The new leaders, having worked hard for 5 years, wouldn't easily relinquish their power. The order that had finally stabilized would face turmoil again. Superheroes couldn't interfere with the power struggle, and they weren't necessarily good leaders. The world faced turmoil 5 years ago, and it would face it again. People wondered how they would cope if this scenario became a reality. At this moment, the blacked-out video screen lit up again, displaying large subtitles. Tony once said, "Do we have to be slow? Can we only be Avengers, not preventers?" Tony, did I say that? I can see some future, but I don't agree with it. Kill the bad guy before he makes a mistake. But Thanos, he is obviously not within this limit. From now on, we will be preventers. Starting today, we will form a space expeditionary army, gather superheroes, join hands with Asgard, and go on an expedition thousands of light years away. All superheroes can register themselves. The following is the registration entrance. Additional, I need to remind everyone that the expedition to the universe is an extremely dangerous thing. Please consider carefully before joining. The message was clear. A new mission awaited the heroes, one that required them to prevent future catastrophes rather than just avenge past ones. The formation of the Space Expeditionary Army marked the beginning of a new era in their fight against cosmic threats. Because I can't take good care of you, and I can't guarantee that everyone will come back alive. I will screen your abilities and eliminate the weak. This is not to look down on you. This is to protect you. Don't go to die in vain. The last sentence, anyone can apply by themselves. Of course, if you insist on going to die, I will give you this chance. After all superhero expeditions, there will be a pension of 100 million. If you don't come back after 1 year, this money will automatically go to your family. 1 month later, when the application is over, I will announce the selected superheroes. At this point, the video is completely over. Why a month? Because within this month, Duke led the superhero team to wipe out the supervillains everywhere. In 1 month, at least over 70% of the villains were eliminated. In case all the big heads go on an expedition in the future, the remaining villains start to make trouble. A month is not long, nor is it short. It is fleeting. On this day, Duke's YouTube lit up again, and the head of the superhero appeared in the video. Almost all the Karazhan series represented by Duke and Diana appeared on the stage. The Avengers went, except for Hawkeye, Falcon, and Peggy Carter. Hawkeye has to take care of his family, while Falcon and Carter are too weak. A group of Atlantis Masters headed by Sea King Arthur joined. The Little Spider went too. Ant-Man and the Wasp joined the battle. Represented by Modu, a group of magicians. Strange didn't participate. He is very weak now, and Guyi left other tasks for Strange. In the X-Men, Jean Grey, Cyclone, Colossus, Psylocke, Quicksilver, Iceman, Fireman, and Nightcrawler joined the battle. Professor X, who has disappeared for a long time, returns with Magneto, and by the way, brings a team of mutant masters. Inhuman Black Bolt leads a team to join. Represented by Sky, the Inhumans wandering the Earth also joined the battle. Transformers did not participate in the battle. Their strength is too weak. There are also many superheroes who don't show up very much, but also choose to join the expeditionary force. After all, it is an expedition to the universe. Such an honor is not common. Duke opened the portal, and with the presence of New Yorkers and the live broadcast of people all over the world, he opened the portal and led the heroes to leave the Earth and join forces with the Asgardian coalition forces. You came. Ah, things have changed, and the plan needs to be changed. I'm also looking forward to fighting side by side with you, Odin said, waving his hand. Expeditionary Army. Let's go. Hoo-ho-ho. Time, half a year has passed in the blink of an eye. People often think of the expeditionary forces. How is the expedition going? Did they win? Have they defeated the big devil yet? The average daily attention of Duke's YouTube has exceeded 10 billion, and the whole world is watching, because the moment it lights up is the return of victory. No one knows where the expeditionary army is or how the melee combat is going. People sighed, followed the notifications, took a bite of bread, and went to work. Thanks to Duke's cleanup, the world is much more peaceful. Many superheroes are still protecting the world. In the 6 months since the expeditionary force left, several major events have happened on Earth. The most frightening thing is Dormammu's rampage. However, thanks to the counterattack of Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange, the big devil was permanently expelled from the Earth and was not allowed to return. And then again, Godzilla is back. Countless prehistoric behemoths appeared, and the world was once in chaos. However, under Duke's advance arrangement, Titan King Kong appeared on the stage, and King Kong slammed Muto, Rayton, and Ghidorah in a rage. In a blink of an eye, 11 months have passed, and the 1-year agreement is about to expire, and the YouTube window is still black. People worry, is it a failure? Suddenly a reminder woke up people all over the world. The YouTube live broadcast room of Duke, the god of The live broadcast of Duke, the god of Fa, that you are following, has started. Please watch it quickly. Author's note, this chapter might feel a bit rushed, but bear with me. There's not much left to write about here. It's essentially a battle with Thanos after the expedition. To be honest, I'm not very skilled at describing action scenes, so I've decided to leave it open-ended after some consideration. In fact, if there are no significant changes this time, we can still explore the Elders later, and reaching 150 million words is a minor goal. There are also sequels like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Godzilla 2, Avengers 3 and 4, and Transformers 5. The 5th Transformers movie is actually the true ending of this book, not just the defeat of Thanos. However, I still plan to stop here. I was a bit hasty, and I hope you will forgive me. In the next chapter, I'll share some of my sad experiences from this year. The last chapter was written directly in the draft box and posted as a VIP without much attention, so it cannot be changed now. The main focus is to form a group and share the monk's tragic experiences over the past few months. If you're interested, feel free to join the group. The group is temporarily closed to new members, but you can search for the group and add the group owner's QQ, and I'll add you in. Over the past 4 days, there have been constant harassment and attempts to join the group by bots, and I don't know why. Maybe it was because I mentioned something about Tsotso, and it caused some trouble. I'm not sure who I offended, but I've been harassed in various ways, all by bots. End of this chapter. Chapter 395, A Year of Misfortune. To be honest, this year has been the most tragic for me. Of course, everyone has their own struggles, but let me share mine. I returned to Weifang by train from Harbin on January 1st. At that time, I was unaware of the impending disaster and didn't pay much attention to the news. I arrived home on the 22nd, and on the 23rd, my relatives in the village gathered for a meal. None of them had been to Wuhan. However, on the night of the 24th, I learned about the outbreak. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, the village roads were closed, which was on the 24th. My mood instantly plummeted. If you look closely, you'll notice that my writing started to deteriorate around this time. There were no proper conditions at home, not even a table and chairs, so I had to write while leaning on the bed, which was exhausting. Due to some past experiences, I never saved my manuscripts, so I had to keep writing despite the discomfort. With the outbreak, my mood worsened, and my writing became even more difficult to digest. I didn't even know what I was writing. All the buses in the city were stopped, and the village roads were closed, so I couldn't go back. I couldn't write at home and could only write when I returned to Harbin. Finally, on the 28th, the 4th day of the Lunar New Year, I managed to get on a bus back to Harbin. The station was half empty, and only 2 of the 6 berths in my sleeper car were occupied. It might have been due to road closures or ticket refunds. My brother drove me to the station. I had bought my return ticket on Meituan and couldn't get a refund, so I had to go to the station to retrieve it, which cost over 400 yuan. When I arrived at the station, I got on the train and left. Fortunately, I left early, and no one else was around, so I didn't encounter any infected individuals. However, my luck ran out upon my return. I arrived at 10 p.m. on the 29th. Since I was sharing a rental, I wanted to check if my roommates had returned. They hadn't locked the door, so I opened it to take a look. Here's the crucial part. I was tricked. The room was on the shady side, dark all year round, with mold covering the walls and a putrid smell in the air. The moment I opened the door, the moldy air hit me, and I could feel it entering my lungs. I had difficulty breathing for a moment, but after opening the window and taking a deep breath, I finally recovered. I realized I had been exposed. Sure enough, the next day I woke up with rhinitis. My nose was stuffy, feeling more than 80% blocked. The pharmacies here only offered products for allergic rhinitis, which didn't help my condition. I bought a lot of medicines, but they were useless, a waste of money. Eventually, I bought a nasal cold compress gel online, which constricts blood vessels, and I still use it now. I dare not go to the hospital at this time, and the hospitals are closed except for those designated for pneumonia. I can't and won't go there for fear of infection. After being blocked for 3 days, my head was dizzy. Can you imagine the quality of the text I wrote during those 3 days, breathing heavily and feeling dizzy? None of this would have happened if I hadn't gone home. Really. Now I feel that it was a matter of timing and fate. Although I didn't get pneumonia, I developed rhinitis and severe nasal congestion. I can't go to the hospital and have to rely on drugs that constrict blood vessels. It's been 3 months, and now I have drug-induced rhinitis. It takes more than half a month to develop drug-induced rhinitis, let alone more than 3 months. Oh, I guess in the future, rhinitis will accompany me for the rest of my life. Thanks to this year's disaster. During the 10 days of the Chinese New Year, my writing quality significantly declined. It wasn't due to a lack of effort, but rather an unavoidable circumstance. If you look closely, you'll notice that my writing level drops during this period. I can see from the background data that subscriptions also decrease during this time, which is truly disheartening. I rushed to finish this work, and I sincerely apologize to all of you who have supported me by subscribing. Currently, I have temporarily changed the site to an entertainment text format. If you're interested, you can join the group 48849. However, the group is temporarily closed to new members. If you still wish to join, you can search for the group and add the group owner on QQ, and I will add you. Over the past 4 days, there have been constant disturbances from bots joining the group. I'm not sure why this is happening. Perhaps it was something I mentioned about Tzu Tall, and it caused some confusion? I don't know who I might have offended, but I've been harassed in various ways, all by bots. In any case, as long as I continue writing, my dream remains unchanged. I will keep pursuing it until the day I can no longer write. End of this chapter.